What are you doing, Jack?
I'm crafting
What are you crafting?
a drink, man.
What do you mean?
Screwdriver.
Oh my god. Welcome back, guys, to another episode in the Auction House podcast. We're happy to be back. This episode is with me and Jack alone. Jack, say hi.
Hey, oh, hello.
I mean, did I just find you in a candy house out in the middle of the forest? Are you trying to
No.
trick me?
No, not at all.
No.
What makes you think?
Oh, I don't know. It's just something a little bit about the laugh. I don't.
Well, maybe you want to buy some candy.
I mean, I'll take some candy.
So what's the subject today?
We have a little bit of a subject. We wanted to try and make it a little more specific what we do each episode. And this episode, we decided to make it about crafting. Make it all about crafting.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about what like the pros and cons are on different professions, how to start with professions.
Yeah, and then also on top of that, our opinions and where you can find information around it, and like the best things to do if you are one to start, or at least if you're one to be interested in professions and the whole crafting side of making gold.
Yeah, also with tools, we're gonna talk about a couple of tools you can use for crafting.
Yeah, add-ons.
And we're gonna also show some pairing options, like which two professions benefit from each other.
Yeah.
Or one.
Like good combo professions. What is good to have together with another profession? Like no-brainer stuff, and then some potentials that could be fine if you don't want to do more than one or two characters.
If you're now listening on YouTube, I want you to take a moment of silence and hit that like button and follow button. Thank you very much. We're gonna start as always with the token price. Sen, what happened this week? Anything special in the EU or US?
I mean, I wish something special would have happened. So no. There's not really that much happening. The US token is staying pretty much the same. The EU token did go up a little bit since we last recorded the episode, but it's been going down again. It's on a downwards trend right now. So we saw the lowest just pop under 160, but it's been trickling up towards 170. So it is a little bit more expensive right now. But you would imagine that there's going to be some more actions once we get closer to BlizzCon.
Yeah, and there's a little trend I saw with the US token price, and it's I don't know if you notice it, but if you take a look at this week, it seems like the best moment to buy a token is after 12 a.m.
Yeah, it's kind of the same ordeal on EU, because the prices kind of dip down in the middle of the night or like early morning.
Yeah.
And that's the thing on EU as well. It's kind of different depending on the day and whatnot, but definitely looking to make your token prices could be an option during the night.
Yeah, it's like a stable up and down every time at 12 o'clock when the evening starts. Then the price is at almost at its top. Or like I think maybe I'm saying it wrong, but if I'm checking here, wait, maybe I can zoom it out. That's an option. I can check out the time that it happens.
But either way, whatever works, when the best, cheapest time is to buy. This only really matters if you're one that purchases like a lot of tokens. Otherwise, a couple thousand gold isn't going to be like the biggest deal ever, because there's not that much volatility, so it doesn't skyrocket all the way, to the moon.
To the moon. So here's the thing. 3 o'clock US, the price is at the highest of the token, and I'm talking about almost 121k. The lowest price is then at after 8 o'clock, and it drops like almost 6k. This happens every day. If you're on US, and you want to buy tokens, buy them after 8 o'clock because those prices are going down. I'm talking about like 114k, even I see here 110k. That's like a 6 hour difference that makes like 6k or even 10k cheaper your token. So
Okay. I mean, it's not bad.
10k on it you can invest a lot of nice things with 10k. So
that is true. If you wanna min max, that is something you can definitely focus on.
Indeed. Another thing, what's happening at the moment on the market is that we're seeing, on the EU at least, some price rising on the herbs. Not all the herbs, some of them. I'm talking about like the widow bloom. Widow bloom is rising slightly up. The quantity is dropping a bit more. The nightshade is happening the same. Prices is slightly going up, but the quantity is dropping. Marrowwood is the most interesting one because that has the most effect. That went up in a couple of days now, from 40 gold each to now 50 gold each. So it increased with 25%.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
And the thing is, Marrowroot is also the one that has the best subject to change because it is the most used herb, at least for the like most popular consumables. So that's kind of the one that's going to be moving the most. But it's probably a good idea to keep a little bit of an eye if you're one to flip consumables or fast moving items. It's probably a good idea to take a little bit of a look on the herbs and follow them along this week. Just see what goes on, what happens. It's not big changes, but this might be around that time where you're gonna be able to get yourself some good deals, depending on your server.
Yeah. Anything you want to add in?
Something that has been interesting for me and has been really good for me, both here in Shadowlands but also in BFA, is BFA mounts.
Mm-hmm.
And BFA mounts obviously are captured Dune Scavenger, tamed Blood Feasters, Terrified Pack Mules, and we got Golden Mains. Now, the best one for me personally has been Dune Scavengers.
Yeah.
Mounts, definitely a high capital. You need a lot of gold to be able to flip mounts. And most of the time, if you want to do it successfully as well, you have to think of it long term, or you have to do some cross realm investing, right? If you're one that currently plays maybe on a high pop server, you're going to be seeing some of these BFA mounts for like dirt cheap prices, dirt cheap, and you have the opportunity to sell them for a lot higher on smaller servers that don't have any. So yeah, that's obviously something that's a possibility.
Tell something about the market. What's happening with them?
Something that we know for a fact is the amount that currently exists is not really growing that much. People aren't farming them, but with how many multi-boxers and how many bots we knew, or at least know have been farming it in BFA, people are still stuck with, I mean, hundreds of these mounts. But they do, I mean, already, even very early on here in the expansion, people are buying them. And I can only imagine the further we go into the expansion and once people start getting back into collecting mode or farming mode or whatever, they're probably going to start selling more. So it's definitely something to consider if you're seeing some really cheap ones, for especially Dune Scavengers and Blood Feasters, tamed Blood Feasters. Yeah.
I'm checking at the moment the price of the Mega Mogul MK2.
That's an option too. Yeah.
Wow, that one is like increasing in price a lot. At its lowest point, it was like 111k, and it's at the moment in region EU, it's now 157k. So that's 46k increase in price. Quantity is dropping like with 100. I think that's a nice moment to start with crafting those.
Yeah. But it's also something that's important to note about the Mecha Moguls. It's one of the profession mounts. And they are going to be obviously moving a little bit differently because it takes more work to be able to get them, right?
And as well with the supercharged engine, that's also one. it's very interesting to start in that market. It's also an engineering mount. The 1st of December 2020, it was rounded up 150k with an amount of 800. Now on the EU, that price went up to 210k. So that's an increase of 60k, and the amount dropped to 480, 490. So the quantity is halved. Great market to step in now, I think.
Oh yeah. And actually, going back to the mounts again, looking at the Dune Scavenger.
Yeah.
Currently on the server that I play on is Terran Mill on EU, if people don't know. And the Dune Scavengers are sitting there for 35,000 gold. And regionally, the region price right now is 156,000 gold. And they're sitting at 120,000 less on Terran Mill.
Yeah.
It's insane.
We should also take a look at the US market, because a lot of our listeners are also from the US. I'm going to pick a server. Let's see. The supercharged engine on the... Oh, this is even better. Unless it's a bug on the Undermine Journal. And by the way, we're checking the underminejournal.com for any info you want to check out. We're talking about, you can find it on their website. The link is below in the description. You can click it open and click on the link. Let's have a look. The 2nd of December, I was talking about the price, 17k. And it is now at the moment at a price of 25k.
Okay, but it's also like when we do bring in US markets, it's a little harder for us to follow because we obviously don't really play there. So a lot of these markets that we talk about is obviously on EU, but a lot of the same tendencies should follow, even though it's in the US. It might be a little different, but that's obviously something that it's the same. It's the same deal with different servers, right?
That's right.
So.
And last but not least, TSM just put out a tweet talking about the 4.11.
It's very exciting. Very exciting.
A couple of things. Optional reagents UX for crafting. Grouping items by eye level while ignoring stats. And custom themes. So, not sure if there's more coming with that, but...
I would imagine there is. They probably just, take a couple headers that they probably think that people are most interested in, and then are probably going to release like a full. They're saying they're going to come out with a full blog post on all the features of 4.11. So hopefully we get some good stuff.
Question of waiting, and stay tuned on their blog. You can check out their information on the tradeskillmaster.com website. Also, a link below in the description if you're checking out YouTube.
Yes.
Otherwise, on the website, the auctionhousepodcast.com website. You can check that out as well for the links. I think we should start with the crafting part, right?
Yes, let's do it.
Maybe you can explain this to the listeners. Why do they start?
Well, so when it comes to crafting, if you're one that you come to the realization one day that you're like, okay, I want to start crafting. I have no idea where I should start. I have no idea what to pick, and I have no idea what I need to do or might want to do to prepare yourself in the best possible way for crafting. And when it comes to crafting, it's based on what you enjoy, right? So you set yourself a goal and then you try to follow that, right? You could say, okay, well, I'm going to pick 2 professions. I'm going to do 1 character to start it off. And I'm going to find all the best profitable items in those 2 professions. And then I'm going to craft those, right? Or you set yourself a goal that you want to do multiple characters, or you want to do specific expansions, or you want to do duplications or whatever. So it's about setting yourself like a level or goal that you want to reach when you start your crafting adventures. And it's when it comes to picking a profession, it's not really there's not really a best profession because they all have their strengths in different areas of what they can do. Some are obviously more popular than others, and some might say, "Oh, well, this is better than that, and this is better than that." But they all have different strengths, so it's hard to say what the best one is. Also, if everybody says, "Oh, well, this profession is the best profession," they'll turn out to be bad because everybody is on it, right? So you should just pick the ones that you enjoy, pick the ones that you think look cool, or if you're trying to do it for maximum amount of profit, then you pick the ones that you have time for.
Yep.
Because they all require different amounts. It's very complex, actually.
The thing about crafting is that you can change something less valuable into more valuable.
Yeah.
Without spending a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
This is how I see gold making. The 5 stages. Stage 1, you're gonna farm, then you're gonna vendor the items. Stage 2, you're gonna farm, sell in the auction house. Stage 3, you're gonna farm and craft with the items. Stage 4, you're gonna buy the materials and craft with them. And stage 5 is actually flipping.
Yeah.
Everybody has his own way of thinking that differs from everyone, from Sensible to Samadan. But the way you can make gold, like make something simple and make it more valuable, that is crafting. It's shuffling. It's pure shuffling. Here's the thing. If something you can craft is not profitable, don't craft it. Sell the product. Unless you bought it, flip it. How do people start with crafting? That's a very common question, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the more common questions because I mean, I get it. When you look at professions, you're like, okay, well, what do I craft and why do I craft and how much do I craft? So many options, right? It's also, do I want to focus on the newest content? Do I want to go back into older content as well? What you're going to be doing when you go into crafting is you're basically doing something that other people aren't willing to do. So you're willing to put your time and effort into creating something or looking for the recipes to be able to create something that other people are not willing to do. That is why some of these things are way more profitable than what they seem to be.
Yeah. What do you think are the most simple professions to start with?
Well, I always say if people are looking for professions to start with, not necessarily crafting, but just professions, it's the gathering professions, 100%. And it's also, if you're one that wants to go into crafting professions, unless you want to do a whole bunch of research and you prepare yourself by looking at what other people do, if you want to start out on your own, getting mining, herbalism, skinning, maybe even fishing, it's all a very good idea. Because as you go through these professions, you find out what the best items are in those professions to go out there and collect. But also, in case you do mining, also smelt some of the bars from the older expansions.
It's also a great way to get started with leveling. Mining and herbing are both gathering professions that give you experience. Is fishing as well? I'm not sure.
No, fishing is nuts. But when it comes to herbing and mining, you can legitimately level on that alone. If you are on a druid, you can level by that, doing that exactly, and it's not that much slower than regular leveling.
Well, it depends per expansion, I noticed. If you're gonna do it on the Battle of Azeroth map, you get way more experience than you're gonna do it on the vanilla. I would combine it, do quests and do gathering as well.
Obviously, if you want to go for quests and dungeons and then you collect on the way, that's completely fine. But if you know that you're creating a character, like, this is the character that I'm going to farm on, you can level all the way up to level 50 with just mining and herbalism. And you don't have to do it in different expansions. You just have to pick the zones that have the most deposits, veins, things that you can collect. And the best possible options while you're leveling is I would take all the way up to level 30. Uh, it because at level 30 you get flying, right? And once you get flying, you can do everything a lot faster, and you can also enter more zones that are much more viable than the ones earlier on in leveling. And and it's you can do a lot of things. One of the easiest ones probably thorium, and also because the arcane crystals, because you let it get a lot of gold from that. And the routes are easy. There's not that many mobs around the spawns. And when you get to level 30, you can just go to Vashir, and you can get from level 30 to 50. If you're one that wants to level up a character to gather your own materials for your crafting, um, the best option is going to be a druid, always, because of the nature of druids. And obviously, depending on your horde alliance, there's some small differences. High mountains get a ratio that makes you mine faster, and then torrents get the ability to herb faster. So that's a little bit of an addition, but that's just a side note. If you're leveling only with collecting or gathering things all the way up to level 30, one of the easiest ways to do it is through thorium to get arcane crystals as well. And by that, you also level your profession in classic. And then once you get to level 30, which is the time that you get flying, you go to Vashir. But obviously, Vashir is a water zone, so you don't need flying, but you can't go to the cataclysm zones before you're level 30. But once you get to level 30, you can do obsidian farming and Ashara's Veil. And those two items are both, like, obsidian is mostly used for leveling engineering, and then you have obviously Ashara's Veil, which is used for Vial of the Sands, which is a two-seater mount that a lot of people are crafting. And you would figure this out as you're going through leveling your professions if you want to start out that way. And that's obviously one way to do it. It's not you don't have to go out there and gather your own materials, but you have the option to. And it's always important to consider all the options you have, because if you enjoy gathering your own materials, that's a good way to get started on crafting for sure. If you decide instead that, okay, I don't want to go out there and gather my own materials, you're probably sitting in a position where you have a little bit of a capital to get started, because depending on what kind of crafting you want to do, you might need a little bit of investing power, so you can buy materials, you can buy recipes, you can buy the needed materials to level up your professions in all the different expansions. But that's obviously based on the goals that you have. So it's once you get through picking your professions, then you can decide, okay, do I want to do multiple expansions, or do I just want to focus on one? And it's kind of up to how much time you have. It's up to your individual goals and the focus on to that. I think additionally to that, you don't, obviously, like, a lot of people think, oh, I can't make any gold if I don't do all the professions. Like, you can for sure make a lot of gold with very few professions. Absolutely. And one of the, like, what I will say, one of the easiest crafting professions right now, if you want to make very simple gold, is you look at ores, and then you look at the bar version of set ores. Obviously, this is a thing for a little bit of the older expansions, but a lot of the old world ores sell for quite a lot of gold. But what you're going to see is the ore, like the amount of ore needed to craft a bar, is usually worth less than the actual bar is. So what I and a lot of other people do is we buy up all the cheap ore that we can see, and then we smelt it into bars, because a lot of people don't want to do this. And then we sell them for a higher price, and we make a profit on the crafting part. So you use time on smelting bars, and you make a profit on the auction house. Right? It's one of the most simple professions that you can do. And if you want to get started very early on, that's something that you can definitely go into. It's also very good to have that as an ability if you're wanting to go into multiple professions. If you want to go into engineering or blacksmithing, they both need a lot of bars and ore. So it's very very important that mining is an addition to that, because you can save yourself quite a lot of gold if you do that.
So we're gonna start with the professions one by one. We're gonna tell the pros, the cons, what the things you should look at, both at the professions, and let's give it a go.
So tailoring has, if you guys don't know, tailoring has always been a very very good shuffle profession. And shuffling is, if you guys don't know what that is, it's you buy something off the auction house, not most of the time, but you can also farm something, but you get a material, you turn it into something else, and you vendor it for less, right? So this would be vendor shuffling, right? If you guys have not heard about it, it's something that is used by a lot of people every single expansion, and tailoring is one of the professions that usually are very good for this, and still are for a couple of expansions. So that's one of the like more time extensive parts of tailoring. But the good thing about tailoring as well is tailoring has a, when it comes to cloth, which is what tailoring is, the majority of what you're going to be getting out of tailoring is crafted armor, right? There's also a bunch of bags in there, but that's mostly focused on the newer stuff. But there are a whole bunch of crafted transmog in tailoring that you can go for. Now, what you go for, that highly depends on the server. There's obviously some super popular items in tailoring, but it's it's depending on what your main goal is with picking a certain profession, right? So, what do you think, Jack?
Um, as in old content, it's very nice for the transmog.
Yeah,
I think, like you said, you should not focus on everything. You should focus on the things that gives a decent profit. You need to calculate that yourself or use a tool like Tricycle Master for that to see what the profits are. Don't go micromanage it or go for the micro profits. Really go for the decent high profits, because transmog is an overall known market that sells pretty slow.
yeah,
Uh, I think as in bags, you should look at like profession bags, like the gem bag or the herb bag, or bags. I think those are pretty nice to go in. There's also a mount. It's not the best one in the market, but the flying carpet.
yeah. It's an option. It's an
It's an
option.
option, but check out what's if it's worth. There's also a couple of pre-crafted items you can use, like the bolts,
Yeah,
the spell weave kinds. That's those are like the crafts you can do as old content, and I think as a new content, you really want to check like the legendaries and also the higher tier level crafted with the Mark II gear. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, when it's if we're talking current content tailoring, the most interesting items are definitely base legendaries. The bags are not something to usually keep that much of a value. You can, on most servers, you can see you can at least turn a profit on the lightless pouches, so the 32 slot bags, and they're also very easy to get, so it makes complete sense. So currently the main focus of current content is definitely base legendaries, and if you want to go old content in tailoring, it's mostly transmog that you're going to be crafting. Um, so yeah, that's tailoring. It's very simple. It has multiple options that are both good for long term selling, but also quick profits to turnarounds with shuffling, right?
yeah, and it is. It's a perfect profession, I think, with enchanting. I'm not sure with which other profession you should be joining it, pairing it to be another one besides enchanting.
The best option is definitely enchanting. I don't. There's not really.
Would there be a second one?
I don't. I don't see the reason for any other than enchanting, because With shuffling, you can mass craft, and the reason that enchanting is really good with tailoring is because you could then disenchant said items that you're making. So that's why it's always been a good pair to have those two together.
Yeah.
Because the good thing about enchanting is that you can make your own materials if you have something like tailoring.
Yeah.
And
let's say somebody already has an enchanter on a different tune, not paired with tailoring. My option would be leatherworking, I think.
Yeah, but
or engineering.
But there's not really a reason to. That's what I'm saying.
Unless you're a raider and you're like a priest or a mage, you have tailoring and you don't have enchanting on it. Get an engineer on it, or get something on that can benefit with a raider.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, based on what kind of goals you have, if you're raiding, obviously the profession that you're picking might be a little bit different, but that's not. I feel like that doesn't really go into importance of crafting. It's more self-sufficient.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. That's true.
So it's
second one. Gonna pick the one of my favorites, alchemy.
Yeah, alchemy is an interesting one. It's one of those professions that I would say alchemy is probably the most popular profession when it comes to gold making.
Fun fact about this, I hear a lot of people that like it and a lot of people that totally hate alchemy.
Oh yeah. It's very, very different. Like the opinion on alchemy is very different at the moment, but it's also a very volatile profession because of a lot of different reasons. But yeah, it's an interesting profession. But why do you enjoy it?
Even old elixirs and potions and oils still sell.
Oh yeah.
Not fast, but they have really nice. They can really have nice profit margins. They are used for other transmogs or for Mount the Vial of the Sense, of course. And it's consumable, and that's the thing I like about it, is that people keep needing it. It's like when you're hungry, you don't need a piece of gear, you need a piece of food.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely one of those. It's for sure one of those professions where you're always going to be able to create something that is going to be bought. Like every single expansion, people are overhyping alchemy because it's flasks, it's potions. Everybody wants them, right? So that's it's an interesting profession for sure. Always something that you have to look out for.
Yeah,
because it impacts a whole of a lot of markets. So it's definitely something that is interesting to look at.
Any pros or cons for that?
Obviously, the fact that it's very popular. It's one of the most popular, if not the most popular, profession there is. So there's going to be a lot of competition in the market. The amounts of profit that you can turn by all the markets that you have is not going to be insanely high. Obviously, that depends on your server, depends on how much time you have. But if you are not if you're going for current content, which is where most of the gold making will be in alchemy, if you do not have a lot of time to sit on the auction house and cancel scan, right, you are going to be undercut, and it's probably also going to be very hard to sell things.
Also, there's three important things with alchemy, and that's Transmute Master, there's Elixir Master, and there's Potion Master, and all three are useful. Two of them are more useful. The number one is Transmute Master.
Yeah,
you can get that. It's a quest you can get in your main city from the alchemy profession trainer, and he gives you the quest at, I think, if I'm correct, skill 300 vanilla. And you can pick between Transmute Master, Elixir Master, or Potion Master. Now, if you have one alchemist, and it's going to be your only one, I recommend to go Transmute Master. And that's because most of the materials, like Living Steel, True Gold, Trillium, Titanium bars, Premium bar.
Oh, the Imperium, yeah,
Imperium bar, yeah. Those all benefit from Transmute Master. You can get like 1 or 5, or Imperium bar even more, by doing one craft. If you have a second alchemist, I recommend to go to an Elixir Master. An elixir master can be handy to sell elixirs that are used for transmog, but mostly for vial to sense. And that's the tide flask and the wind flask, that both are needed for the vial to sense.
Yeah.
If you have a third alchemist, go potion. The only thing I can recommend from that is like the treasure finding potion from Catalysm. That's a very nice one you can proc. You can also get like 5 for them. And I forgot to say with elixir, also 5 with one craft. But the last option would be Potion Master. All the procs work till Mr. Pandaria. So from vanilla to Mr. Pandaria, anything beyond won't work with these specialities. What would you pair it with?
Alchemy is... It's an interesting one. I would probably, in most cases, I would pair it with Inscription.
Yeah.
Because Inscription uses pretty much the same, or at least a lot of the same materials as Alchemy does.
Yes.
So if you're buying all of your materials, that is the best combination that you can have.
I think so as well. And if you want to top another level on it, I would say put cooking on it. You have like then a full consumable character. Yeah.
But that's a secondary profession which you can get all the time, which is nice.
Yes, but I would recommend to put it only on one character. It's not smart to have it on 10. And if I would pick one cooking, then it would be absolutely with alchemy and an inscriptionist.
Yeah, consumable character.
Yes, a consumablist.
Consumablist?
Yes, a consumablist. What's the next profession?
We just talked about Inscription, so I guess Inscription. Inscription is one that is interesting. It's
can be a pain in the ass, but it can be a good one as well.
Yeah, it highly depends on the server. Obviously, Inscription is current content. It's missives. It's contracts. It's high focus on that, right?
A little bit of transmog. There's like a couple of pieces.
Very tiny.
The weapons, they look awesome. They really look awesome.
That's true. And then when it comes to old content, it's glyphs. And the glyph market is obviously depending on your server. There might be a lot of competition on it.
Yeah.
And long-term people that have been there for a very long time. So I wouldn't say that the glyph market is the easiest thing to get into. But there's definitely some opportunity there.
Talking about the glyphs, somebody like selling them really on low prices on the auction house, I would not recommend to try fight it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of gold. It's better to focus on other things then.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to like approaching it, that's a whole different talk.
Yeah. What else? Oh, there's like the renaming of pets. It's an old content item, the certificate of ownership. Now, I'm not sure if every server it sells good on, but I can tell you it's cheap to craft and it sells pretty nice. And it's an item that's used for hunter pets for hunters that want to change the name of their pets. That's it.
Is it if you gave it a name already, is it to rechange it?
Yes.
Ah, I see. Okay. Yeah, well, I see how people would need that.
And I'm not sure how it goes on, so check it out before you invest in it. But it can be a very nice market that gives you high profits. It doesn't sell like 100,000 a week, but I think you could manage like 3 till 10 per week if the market is right for it. It's a very nice item.
It's definitely an option.
Card of Omen. I see a couple of people. I'm not in the market, but I see definitely people promoting the Card of Omen on the trade chat a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Dark Moon decks, obviously, still probably a thing you can make a decent amount of profit on in current content.
Also, that depends per realm,
and obviously how much demand that you will see. It's highly dependent on the realm, like how many guilds are raiding and how many people are doing Mythic Plus and whatnot, doing the PvE content.
Yep.
But it's definitely something to look into. It's time intensive. If you want to be mass crafting it, you have to. It takes a long time because you have to mill herbs and you have to turn it into something else, and then you can turn it into smaller cards and then bigger cards, and then you have the Dark Moon decks, right?
Yes. anything you would pair it with besides alchemy?
Besides
Yeah,
alchemy,
I'm thinking about.
I don't think so. Uh no.
Maybe with jewel crafting, maybe.
Yeah, but that's the only reason is for current content.
Yeah,
And that alone, I don't think
it's
it's good enough.
it's not good enough. No.
So it's I don't think I'd pair it with anything else than alchemy.
Yeah. The number 4, engineering.
For engineering, it's always been the profession that I have never gotten into fully. It's always been the one that's, been chilling in the background for me. So I mean, I know what it obviously entails, and I know what it goes into, but if you don't mind, you can start it out.
I actually really love it, and not because of the current content. It's really bad at the moment. Not saying it's written off. It's not to get it. I'm just saying be patient. I think and I hope in 9.1 we're gonna see some more things with engineering. First, gonna start with the old content. The old content, there's so much to make with engineering, and I'm gonna take my list out. I have an Miro board that tells you all the graphs you can do with different professions, and I will link it as well in the YouTube description or on the website. Um, let's see, like we're gonna talk about mounts. It is the only person with the most mounts you can craft. It has like for engineering flying machine, a turbocharging flying machine, two type of choppers actually, and one for the horde, one for the lines. Sky Golem, the Geos, the Geos, the Geosync Gromos World.
Yeah, the geosynchronous world spinner.
Yes, say it 10 times. The depleted Kuiperite rocket.
Yeah, okay.
The BFA ones. It's and I'm just talking about the mounts. I'm not even talking about the toys, the pets you can make with them.
Jeeves.
Jeeves. Yeah, I would not skip it at all. I would even say to you, get 2 engineers. You know why?
Well, it's because most people don't do it. It's always. I feel like.
Wait, what?
I feel like engineering is that box of random stuff that you've been saving for multiple years, that's just collecting dust in like the bottom of your closet, right? That's literally what engineering is, right? You take it out and you look into it and you're like, yeah, I mean, you know what? I'll keep it, but I'll put it back on the shelf, at the bottom of the shelf.
Engineering is like the mother-in-law you don't love, but you do also not hate her.
It's just like it's always been weird to me. I never really been interested in engineering, but it's also my approach is I pick the professions that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously something with engineering is it's also a very PvP heavy profession. There's a lot of like fun items like maybe move faster, jump, throw dynamite, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So like in that aspect is really fun, and that's what I personally like. That's the side of engineering that I've enjoyed. But other than that, it's a good profession for sure. But it's very limited.
Have a look like at the Autohammer. It's one of the best items at the moment you can sell as an engineer. There's also a couple of other things I would recommend, like the Bombola launcher. It's one that I sell. It's not a lot, but it sells decent. The wormhole generator shell lens. It's one that sells good. And the parts like the spring, the bolts, they sell decently. As pro and cons, I would say in old content, it's really nice. I do recommend to get 2 engineers. I asked that question if you know why, and do you know why you should get 2 engineers?
I have no idea. Daily cooldowns?
No, you have like the gnomish engineer and the goblin engineer, and
yeah.
they both make different mounts, and they both make different toys and pets. So that's why you want to pick 2 engineers. That's actually a con, I would say. I would rather have it just all on one. It makes it easier. And uh, the another con about it is that it's restricted.
That's what I'm saying. It's like pretty limited, in
Yeah,
my opinion. It doesn't have many options as to what you can make. I feel like it's very limited. Obviously,
I meaning like who can use it. Like most
oh
of
yeah,
the engineering stuff needs to be used by an engineer.
but that's what I'm saying. It's very limited.
Pair it with blacksmith, mining, of course. But if you should use really like a crafter, I would go for a blacksmith or a jewel
Yeah.
crafter, or yeah, that's it.
It doesn't like engineering doesn't really have any like case on case best pair. Like it doesn't really work super good together with anything.
Well, in efficiency, I would pick blacksmith or a jewel
Yeah,
crafter
it's the
because
closest one.
yeah, because they use both. Use ore, so
Yeah, so it'd be fine.
yeah. For the role, it's not that really really great. Let's hope it will be better in 9.1.
Yeah, maybe. One of the other professions that we currently have is jewel crafting. Now, jewel crafting for me, I've lost interest in jewel crafting last couple of expansions. I feel like it's become the new engineering. But um, jewel crafting, the main purpose of jewel crafting is obviously that you take gems, uncut gems, and then you make them into gems that people socket into their gear. And if you're one to have played in the last two expansions, you know that the need for gems in your gear have been very, very extremely low. So what saved it a little bit is it had BUP crafted items in BFA, but here in Shadowlands, it doesn't really. There's not really anything in jewel crafting that's super good. They obviously have the necks, they have rings. Currently, like blue item level crafted 168 if you have the ranks, which is a little bit of a gold maker. It's obviously not something to ignore, but it's not that interesting. It doesn't have that many options for current content stuff. I feel like it's been left in the dirt a little bit. But when it comes to older stuff, one of the more interesting parts of jewel crafting is definitely Panthers from
Yeah,
Mr. Pandaria, right?
it's a It's a really small market at the moment for that.
Yes.
There's also the Jade Owl, that's the pet, and the Sapphire cup you can make, and you can make the toys. And this is a nice one. I think it's a fun one as well. The Jewelcraft. You know what it is?
Which one?
It's called Jewelcraft from Legion.
Oh yeah. I know. I remember. Yeah, I remember.
It's a fun one. If you can buy it or make it, do it. It's a little fun mini game. Yeah, it's fun to play. Let's see. Further all, yeah, jewel crafting it's
underwhelming.
It's the rings are decent.
Yeah. If you're one to get into legendary base crafting, I would never pick jewel crafting first because it doesn't have it doesn't have that many crafts, which means that you slot a profession in that isn't going to be able to push as far as something like blacksmithing or tailoring or so forth, you know?
As in pairing, what would you pick?
Blacksmithing.
Really?
For sure. Because the reason is that you use ore and bars in the same way. So the materials that you need for both profession they come from the same place.
I will pick with jewel crafting alchemy.
Why?
Only as a second alchemist, not as a first.
I mean, it makes sense for transmute mastering.
Yes.
I guess if you want to make your own living steel, you're going to cut a lot of potential profit into your price. It's actually going to be pretty good if you make your own living steel. You can keep that up.
Pentagems. Same thing. Pentagems. Yes. Those also work with the transmute master, and you need them for jewel crafting to make the pentas, of course.
So if you're one to actually, or if you want to go into the old part, or at least the Panther specifically, it'd be good paired with alchemy, because the only like major reason that you will pick jewel crafting right now is, or at least for all content, is for the Panthers, right? So you can have that on a secondary character if you want to.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, if you pick a second time alchemy, put it on the jewel crafter. It's really
other than that, blacksmithing is a good pair.
That's the next one I want to talk about. Blacksmith. It's an. I miss cosmetically. I miss like there's not a lot of mounts you can make with it or pets you can make. It's only one mount and only one pet you can make with it. The blacksmith.
Yeah, but there's a lot of transmog in
There
blacksmithing.
is a lot, and it does
There's
look good.
a ton, and it looks super good as well. And that obviously the transmog in blacksmithing is heavily located in old content, right? Old crafted transmog.
Yes.
But obviously this expansion we have base legendaries. That is something that blacksmithing also has.
Yep.
A good selection, obviously, and then there's also the blue items. So there's a lot of opportunity to be had in blacksmithing. And it's definitely something to look out for, both in current content and in old content. It's strong in both right now, so it's one of the like stronger professions, I would say, at the moment. So it's definitely something to look out for sure. Absolutely.
Shadow gas ingots. It's a really good market at the moment. If you're a little bit done with the legendaries or you're not into the legendaries, that's also possible. Go for the shadow gas ingots.
Yep.
Good market to go in.
Even sometimes the late strike keys, the late strike skeleton keys, they're also fine.
But those are again
they're blacksmithing specific.
Yeah. I think again that's like engineering. Blizzard should remove those restrictions, makes it more fun. It's a bit strange. Like if I have there's still blacksmiths in the world. If I make them a key for me for my door, and then I cannot open it, would be a bit strange, right?
It could be fun. I would say though, it would be pretty fun if they added like if you don't have the profession, side effects may happen.
Yeah. Oh.
So like if you get
you can break it accidentally.
Yeah, or if you get like speed boots from jewel crafting, it's gonna like slow you or speed you even further.
Like it explodes, you lift off.
Yeah, like unexpected side effects.
Yeah, so Blizzard, if you're listening, cut that crap. It's not. It has no benefit.
What I'm saying, Blizzard, if you make me move fast in one direction, I want you to randomize that direction if I don't have engineering. So if I pick speed boots and it's gonna send me forward, I want it to send me backwards at the same speed. It'd be fun.
Don't forget the sharpening stones, the weapon mods. Those can be very nice on the market as well.
Also, definitely something to look into. Yes. Yes.
Pairing.
The best pair is jewel crafting, in my opinion, for blacksmithing. Blacksmithing doesn't really have any other profession that synergizes that well because of the materials needed. So
go half and half. I would say jewel crafting, but I would first of all I would pick engineering with it.
Yeah. I mean, then again, if you're doing current content, if you want to be self-sufficient, it would be fine to do enchanting with it, because of the enchanted Alephian bars for the base legendary items.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the only reason.
Yeah, it could be in the next expansion that it's totally it's the worst combination. So yeah,
absolutely. But that can happen any changes. So it fully depends. Yeah. The last one that we have for crafting professions, if we're not counting the secondary ones, and so there's leatherworking.
Yeah.
Leatherworking is very it's kind of in the same area that tailoring is. It's a pretty good shuffling profession, especially for last two expansions. Strength of leatherworking is also that you can take lesser quality leather and then you can turn it into a higher quality leather. So it's something if you're a person that likes to skin, for this expansion you can take heavy calcite, turn it in, or calcite and turn it into heavy calcite, and that's usually really good, depending on what kind of server that you play on. But it's definitely something that is to be considered. And then additionally, one of the best parts about leatherworking this expansion is the base legendary item crafting, because as leatherworking is, it stands for leather and mail items. So it has a lot more crafted items for base legendaries, and because of that, the amount needed is also super high for that profession specifically. So
is the profession I don't like. I don't know why. I just don't like it. I do it, but I don't like it.
For me, leatherworking has always been like kind of underwhelming, but now that last two expansion, it's gotten some hip in a step.
Do you think because of the legendary?
Definitely because of the legendary, but also because in BFA it had a lot of shuffling opportunities.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it got kind of interesting to me. But the base legendary is definitely revived leatherworking in terms of popularity. I'd imagine that leatherworking probably has some pretty good transmog crafted items from older expansions. You could look into potentially some PvP crafted gear, but majority of the time it's not one of the most favorable. But I will say it's definitely worth it to look into when it comes to old crafting. There's definitely some desirable transmogs that is worth looking into.
What mostly stands out for me is that you need a lot of different materials for old content, for the old transmog for leatherworking. It's a lot of skills, a lot of different of heights, and all those kind of things.
I honestly like that.
Oh, I like it too. One thing else is the comfortable rider's barding. It's an piece you can put on your mount, equip on your mount slot, and it will be like an anti-dazed thing. Yeah, when you get hit, you don't get this, you go slow or whatsoever. Or you get, I think, if you don't even get pulled off the mount. I'm not sure. I don't use it, so
I don't remember pairing with leatherworking. It's the best option is probably enchanting. In most cases because of potentially low crafted greens that you can turn into enchanted materials. I don't really see any other.
I would say a second engineer, because some of the crafts and it's basically for yourself. There's some leather crafts that you can make with engineering that can be very handy.
But I will say it's a very standalone profession.
It's pretty standard, unless you put on skinning with it, of course. But
or unless you do shuffling. So that's what it fully depends on.
You mean like tailoring with it, or
no? So leatherworking and enchanting.
Oh, okay, that's that kind of shuffle. Okay, I was thinking of a fender shuffle.
No, you can also do that,
Yeah.
but that's very standalone. To enchanting, talking about the mount equipment, enchanting has enchanting is you enchant a piece of gear, so you make it stronger with a scroll of enchanting. It has some stats on it. You put that on an item, or maybe it has a specific thing that it does. It makes you faster. You craft faster. You gather faster. Whatever it is a magic.
Magic.
No, but that is what enchanting is. It also has the disenchanting parts, and that is why it's a good pair with both tailoring and leatherworking, because that is where you can find, in terms of mass production, that's where you can find the cheapest greens. So enchanting is good for that, definitely. I will say this expansion, enchanting has been quite underwhelming because of the nature of how they made enchants in this expansion. But in terms of old world enchants, there's actually quite a lot of enchants that people are buying. It's definitely not something to look over and say, oh, well, there's no profit to be had on any of these enchants. People aren't going to buy the old enchants. Nobody wants that anymore. But no, people still. It's definitely worth it to look into the old world crafting of enchanting as well. Definitely an idea to do. Also, on top of that, if you can find some old items that are worth almost nothing on the auction house, you can disenchant them and turn them into an enchanting material that can potentially sell for more, or you can use it for something else that you want to craft, right? So it's definitely something that is very desirable because it has the enchanting parts, and that is why it's always been a pretty popular profession for new expansions, right?
Yeah, it's as an old content. There are some people that still buy the old enchants. I don't know which one, but I noticed they buy them.
The amount of demand has definitely gone down because of level squish. And also the fact that leveling is a lot faster now, so there's a lot less buys. Something that used to be very popular was the Legion enchants, all the marks.
Yep.
But that isn't as popular anymore, obviously because we got a new expansion, but also because of the new leveling system. There was the mount equipment, which is light step hoof plates, which increases your mounted movement speed by 20%, I think it is. Which is an item that is usually very cheap to make. And it's also good if you have a blacksmith, because then you can make the light step hoof plates, but the problem is you need a couple ranks. So, but even if you buy all the materials needed to be able to craft them, there's usually a lot of profit in them, because a lot of people don't know where they're from or forget about the fact that they exist. So that's something about enchanting for sure, yeah.
Portal, as in old content, it has its pets, Legion pets. They do go for a decent price. And of course, you got the Tomb of Illusions.
Tomb of Illusions, yeah.
Yeah, those can be nice. I've noticed on my server they are dropping down in value.
It's different on all servers. I will say Tomb of Illusions are, in terms of old world crafts, they are probably the best part about enchanting. Yeah. And there's a lot of them too.
And it's a kind of consumable. It's not that active as inscription or cooking or alchemy, but it is a kind of consumable profession. Pairing. The basically, I would say tailoring.
The shuffle professions. Yeah. Tailoring or leatherworking.
Tailoring, leatherworking, that would be the two.
And other than that, there's not ever a reason to. Yep. You could consider blacksmithing, but most of the time it's way too expensive to make the blacksmithing items, and it's never really been worth it in that term.
Yes.
So most of the time, pretty much in every, like the last couple of expansions, we've seen that tailoring, leatherworking is the best pair with enchanting. So that is best pair at the moment.
Yeah. Now let's head to the secondary ones.
Yeah. Then obviously we only really have one to talk about in terms of crafting, which is cooking, because archaeology is,
Well, archaeology is great when you need file to sense. And
yes,
here's another thing. Archaeology can be a nice farming one as well. Keystones, like the ones for use Catalysm and Mr. Pandaria, those can sell really for high prices. Because you're not the only one that wants to file to sense, and more people that want it. And it's a chance you can get the file sense, so you need to get as much jars to open up and get them. And the easiest way to get the jars to get the keystones, and the keystones you can buy or gather for, with the profession.
Mm-hmm.
But they're good for selling, so that's a good thing. That's it actually with archaeology. Cooking, fishing. I think cooking is a perfect one to put in with alchemy and the inscription. And the inscription, as in old, there is almost nothing you can sell. Only I think with during Christmas with the cookies.
And then there's the speed food, but the speed food is very small profits, if any. So
yeah, it's not that hyped. It's not that big thing at the moment. The speed food. Feasts can be good. Most of the guilds at the moment, I notice, are making them themselves, the feasts. The large foods are, for me, working the most at the moment.
Well then.
Fishing is a nice one to get with your miner and your herbalist. It's a very relaxing one as well to do. So a bit of fishing. First of all, that's it so far. Let's talk about the tools.
If you're one that wants to get started on crafting, or if you want to get started on leveling your professions, if you want to get started on farming, whatever it is, everything profession related in WoW, the best website that I've been using for many years now, like it's existed for as long as I can remember, since I started, I will say sometime in MUP, but it's called wildprofessions.com, and there's it's wild-professions.com. If you search it up on Google, you'll find it no matter what. I will also put a link in the description, but if you're one to be fast and all, that is very easy to find. The good thing about it is the guy that runs it, he is still running updated content. He puts updated content out all the time. There's a lot of farming guides, and then obviously profession leveling guides. And the profession leveling guides showcase the cheapest way and or the fastest way of leveling your professions, which is really nice if you don't want to sit there and try to figure it out yourself, and if you want a quick, how much do I have to buy of each things, or how much do I have to farm of each thing, and then get it done and get it over with, right?
Yep.
So good.
And of course, Trace Master.
Yeah. TSM.
I think that's the best add-on there is for professions. The reason why is that it can calculate the profit, and it will tell you to craft it or not.
It's very intimidating. It's different styles.
It's different styles, yeah.
Yeah, if you're one to really start to get into crafting, TSM will definitely help you out a lot.
Yeah.
To find out what is profitable to craft, but also just to line up the amount that you need, look at purchase data or like buying and selling data in terms of the materials that you want and need.
You really need to fine tune it, and at least 2-3 times a year, check how the settings are, check the prices you're set, the amounts you're gonna craft, check them always out, fine tune them if needed. But I think it's such an essential tool that can decide if craft can be good or not, unless you want to manually calculate it.
Yeah. And then obviously, something that is important to consider when you're getting into crafting is, do you want to farm or do you want to buy?
Yeah.
Right. You can also do both. It's completely up to you. If you are one that wants to buy all the materials that you need, or maybe even recipes from old world expansions, it's going to cost you a lot of gold. It definitely is. And depending on what you put your money into, what you decide to get into, it's very different, the amount of profit that you can turn back very quickly. So it all depends on that, obviously.
Well, it also depends on what you like.
Yes.
It has its benefits, buying them yourself, the materials. It costs you way less time. You can do way more production in that way instead of farming, because when you get a farm, you need to spend time getting the materials and then craft. You can also, if you get lucky or you know somebody that farms, you can buy them straight off from them with a nice discount. The good thing about farming is that you, at the end, you have more money left in your bags, but you have less time.
It depends on your goal. If you want to make as much gold as possible, buying all the materials obviously the best way.
Totally. Yeah.
Obviously the best way. But if you like farming, you should definitely just do farms.
Or do both.
I'll do both. But if you want to make as much gold as possible, it's definitely buying everything.
Yeah.
But the very important thing to realize when it comes to crafting, if you buy everything, it's going to be very expensive. You're going to need a small bit of capital before you can really start getting into crafting. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to turn like too big amounts of profits. So it's consideration you have to make. Some choices that you have to think of for sure.
And you also have to visualize, like, okay, let's have an example. Zen is a farmer. He farms for an hour. I'm a crafter. I can make more opportunities than Zen is farming at the moment. I can buy the materials. I can craft. I can do way more in an hour than he can farm. That's the thing you need to realize. And it's pure time management. It's not gold management. It's time management. Because the less time you can spend, the more time you have left to make more gold.
Depending on your goal, depending on what you're interested in, depending on what you want to spend your time on in your professions, this obviously varies. If you're one that if you do a lot of crafts all over the place, then obviously you can diversify the amount of stuff that you're crafting. So you also have the potential to make a lot of gold. But depending on how you decide to do it, it might be very different, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And the thing about farming is not guaranteed, but it's a very easy to enter, easy to follow way of doing it, right?
Yes. There's even a next step you can take with crafting. And it's a step I heard a couple of people doing already. That's like making crafters on other servers. It costs a lot of time to do that, or you need to invest a lot of time in it and gold in it. But I think the outcome can be.
The outcome is insane.
Yeah.
If you're prepared, if you know what to go for, if you have a like fully fledged plan, you can definitely set up multiple realms with crafting plans for what you want to craft based on knowledge that you have from other servers. But that's like a very high level way of crafting, and it's
next level.
Yeah, next level for sure. Yeah. So guys, this was a little bit of, I will say, like, what our whole point with talking about crafting and professions in general is we want to start conversations, right? We want to give you guys an opportunity to listen to what we have to say, so you might make some considerations, make some preparations into starting or getting started with crafting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting world. It's a topic that you could talk about for literal hours, a very long time for sure, and it's something that we continuously talk about all the time. So.
And of course, some other shows we're gonna expand more on the specific crafts and tactics and whatever.
Like go into more specifics, like current prices, current markets. So it can be more into each profession. This was more like an overall general way of thinking about it, right?
Yes. For next week, we're gonna talk about Trade Skill Master, the add-on. We're gonna talk about the good stuff, the less good stuff. Maybe talk a bit about the options, the sources,
ways to approach it, ways to get started on learning.
Yes.
And then hopefully, or maybe we'll see a new blog post about the new update for 4.11.
Yeah, let's hope so.
That might be an option.
That might be an option. So if you have a question about Trade Skill Master, 3 options. Option number 1, tweet us at
the AH_podcast on Twitter.
That's one option. Option number 2, if you're watching or listening actually on YouTube, put in a comment with your question. If you have a question about Trade Skill Master, put it in, and we can answer it in the next show. That's not a problem. Give it a like as well. Give it a follow. Same for Spotify. If you're listening, subscribe, follow.
Ding the bell.
One more thing, on my website, www.golddipper.com, there will be a new post about this podcast. I will put in the form. You can also put in there your question or suggestion if you have that. Are we forgetting anything?
No, I don't think so.
No. So I'm going back to my screwdriver. Don't know what you're gonna do.
I'm going back to not a screwdriver. So that's gonna be very interesting. No, no,
guys.
I'm gonna go back to getting screwed. No.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, guys. Thank you for listening this episode. See you next time, next Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you want to go.
All the good stuff.
See ya.
See ya.